In June of 1976, millions of American parents put their children on a bus, sent them 200 miles into the woods, and did not hear their voices again for 8 weeks. No phone calls, no visiting day. The counselors were 16, the lifeguard was 17. The rifles were real. Every piece of that arrangement is now illegal, uninsurable, or extinct. And number 30 is the reason nobody will ever be allowed to build it again. Number 1, 8 weeks, zero contact. When the bus pulled out of the church parking lot in late June, the communication between an American child and his parents ended completely until late August. There was one telephone at camp in the director's office, and it was for emergencies. And an emergency meant a broken bone or a death in the family. The only channel home was the letter, 1 page, written under mild duress on Sunday afternoons, arriving 5 days later. Parents did not know if their child was happy, sick, homesick, or thriving, and they had agreed to this in writing with a check. Today, the average American summer camp offers a daily photo feed through an app, same-day email delivery, and a parent portal, because the modern parent cannot tolerate 8 hours of silence, let alone 8 weeks. The zero-contact camp was not a flaw in the system, it was the system, and it is extinct. Number 2, the counselors were 16 years old. The person with total, around-the-clock authority over a cabin of 10 children was a high school junior who had been a camper himself the summer before. He woke them, fed them, disciplined them, treated their cuts, judged their disputes, and held absolute power over their daily lives for 2 months, with no adult inside the cabin and no certification beyond having survived the same cabin himself. The senior staff, the people in their 20s, ran the waterfront and the kitchen and were considered elders. Today, state regulations impose minimum counselor ages, mandatory background checks, certification courses, and supervision ratios that would have struck the 1976 camp director as the staffing requirements of a hospital. The 16-year-old with total authority is gone, and the apprenticeship and responsibility he was getting is gone with him. Number 3, Riflery with real rifles at age 8. Down a dirt path behind the dining hall was the rifle range, where children who had been alive for 8 years lay on burlap mats and fired live .22 caliber ammunition at paper targets. Supervised by a teenager with an NRA instructor card, the children earned marksmanship medals, pro marksman, marksman, sharpshooter, sewn onto their shorts by their mothers in September. The rifles were real. The bullets were real. The 8-year-olds were real. Accidents were almost unheard of because the entire activity was wrapped in a discipline so absolute that children whispered on the rifle range. Today, Riflery has disappeared from the overwhelming majority of American summer camps, eliminated not primarily by law, but by insurance carriers who declined to write the policy. The discipline disappeared with the rifles. Number 4, archery with children walking downrange. The archery range operated on the honor system. A line of 10-year-olds fired arrows at straw targets, and when the round ended, the same 10-year-olds walked downrange together to pull their arrows out on the verbal command of a 15-year-old instructor, trusting that nobody behind them would touch a bow. Nobody behind them touched a bow. The system ran on the assumption that children given a deadly serious rule would keep it, and the assumption held summer after summer at thousands of camps. Today, archery survives at camp in a heavily padded form, compound safety bows, mechanical retrieval, adult-only range commands, because the original version depended on a kind of trust in children that no liability officer will sign off on anymore. Number 5, the waterfront, guarded by a 17-year-old with a whistle. The swimming area of the 1976 American summer camp was a section of cold lake, marked off with rope and oil drums, watched by a 17-year-old lifeguard standing on a wooden dock with a whistle and a buddy board. There was no certified aquatics director. There was no lifeguard chair, no rescue board, no defibrillator. There was the buddy system, every camper paired with another camper, and when the whistle blew twice, you grabbed your buddy's hand and held it in the air, and the 17-year-old counted the pairs out loud. The system worked because 200 children took it as seriously as a fire drill. Subscribe to this channel the way a camper answered a buddy check, fast, loud, and without thinking twice, because this channel runs on the same system, people showing up and being counted. Number 6, the bus ride itself. 6 hours in a retired school bus with no seatbelts, duffel bags stacked in the aisle to window height. Windows jammed half open, a counselor in the front row leading 99 bottles of pop on the wall, and a driver who smoked the entire way with his elbow out the window. The bus broke down roughly every third summer, and when it did, 60 children stood on the shoulder of a state highway in the sun while the driver hammered at the engine, and this was considered part of the adventure. Today, camp transportation involves seatbelt-equipped coaches, GPS tracking visible to parents, 2 adults per vehicle, and a check-in text at every rest stop. The bus ride stopped being the first chapter of the story and became a logistics problem to be minimized. Number 7. Bug juice from a communal cooler with 1 ladle. The official beverage of the American summer camp was a 10-gallon metal cooler of water mixed with powdered drink mix of indeterminate flavor, red mostly, sometimes purple, served at every meal and every break, accessed by a single, long-handled ladle that 200 children shared for 8 weeks. Nobody knew what flavor it was supposed to be. Nobody asked. The shared ladle passed through 200 hands a day, every day, all summer, and the camp survived. And so did the children, carrying home immune systems that had been trained like Marines. Today, the shared ladle violates approximately 11 separate health codes, and the bug juice has been replaced by individual sealed bottles, each one a small monument to the assumption that other children are a biohazard. Number 8. No sunscreen. Anywhere. The American camper of 1976 spent 10 hours a day outdoors, shirtless, at altitude or on open water, with no sun protection of any kind, because sunscreen as a daily category did not meaningfully exist. The acknowledged technology was baby oil, sometimes mixed with iodine, applied to accelerate the burn into a base tan. The first week of camp ended with 200 children whose shoulders were peeling in sheets, comparing the size of the pieces they could pull off, and the camp nurse's entire intervention was a jar of Noxzema. Today, camps employ written sunscreen protocols with timed reapplication, shade requirements, and rash guard policies, and the peeling shoulder, the universal August badge of the American child, has disappeared from the species. Number 9. The polar bear swim. At 6:30 in the morning, in the 3rd week of June, in a lake in Maine or Wisconsin or the Adirondacks where the water temperature had not yet reached 60 degrees, a counselor walked through the cabins ringing a bell, and every child who wanted the polar bear patch, which was every child because the patch existed, ran down to the dock in the gray light and jumped into water cold enough to stop their breath. They came out blue, screaming, euphoric, and went to breakfast vibrating. No medical screening preceded this. No risk assessment followed it. Today, cold water immersion of minors before dawn without parental consent forms would close a camp by the weekend, and adults now pay $40 a session for the identical experience at wellness studios, rebranded as cold plunge therapy. Number 10. Capture the flag, at night, across the entire property. Once a session, after dark, the camp split into 2 armies and played capture the flag across the full territory. Woods, ravines, the waterfront perimeter, the hill behind the rifle range, with no flashlights, no boundaries except the property line, and no adult tracking where any individual child was for the duration of the game. Children ran full speed through black forest, fell into creek beds, lay silent in poison ivy for 40 minutes, ambushed each other off trail, and limped home triumphant with sprained ankles they did not report, because reporting meant sitting out. Today, the nighttime free-range game across unlit terrain is an actuarial impossibility, and the version that survives is played on a lit field, with glow sticks inside cones. Number 11. Every boy had a knife. The pocket knife arrived at camp in the duffel of nearly every male camper over the age of 9, with the knowledge of the camp and the blessing of the parents, because the knife was considered a tool of childhood rather than a weapon. The official program included whittling hour. Boys played mumblety-peg, a game whose entire object was throwing an open knife into the dirt near your own foot, on the cabin steps while counselors watched with mild interest. Cuts happened, were wrapped, and were not reported to anyone. Today, the pocket knife in a camper's duffel triggers confiscation, a parental phone call, and in some camps dismissal, and the small daily competence of a child maintaining his own blade has been removed from American boyhood almost completely. Number 12. Snipe hunts and cabin raids. The first-year camper, at some point in his first 2 weeks, was handed a pillowcase and led into the dark woods to catch a snipe, a bird that does not exist, and left there, holding the bag open, making the snipe call he had been taught, while the older boys watched from the trees and wept with laughter. He found his way back. He was furious for an hour and proud for a decade. The same first year would, by August, be leading the 2 a.m. raid on Cabin 6, armed with shaving cream. This entire ecosystem of sanctioned mischief, initiation, retaliation, escalation, truce, operated with the silent tolerance of the staff. Today, it would be classified as hazing under most state statutes, and the camp that tolerated it would be closed and sued in the same week. Number 13. Ghost stories engineered to genuinely terrify. The campfire story of 1976 was not a gentle, spooky tale. It was a psychological operation delivered by a counselor with theatrical gifts, presented as documented local history. The hook-handed man whose hook was found hanging from a car door on this exact road. The drowned camper whose voice could still be heard from the lake on still nights. Which is why, boys, we never swim after dark. The children did not sleep. Some of them did not sleep for 3 nights. No parent was informed because no parent could be reached. The fear was understood to be part of the product. A controlled encounter with terror survived in a group, metabolized into legend. Today, the counselor who told that story as fact would be writing an incident report by morning. Number 14. The infirmary that treated everything with aspirin and mercurochrome. The camp medical system consisted of 1 registered nurse, a metal cabinet, and 4 technologies: aspirin, calamine lotion, mercurochrome, a topical antiseptic that was, in fact, 2% mercury since banned, and lying down until dinner. Bee stings, fevers, sprained wrists, poison ivy covering 40% of a body, fishhooks through thumbs. The protocol was the cabinet, the cot, and the assessment of a single nurse with 20 years of summers behind her. Children were not sent home. Parents were not called. The camper with the wrapped wrist was back at the waterfront in 2 days, prouder than before. Today, the same infirmary operates under physician oversight, electronic medication logs, parental notification rules, and an evacuation protocol with the regional hospital. And the wrapped wrist goes home on day 1. Number 15. The coached letter home. Sunday afternoon was letter writing hour, mandatory, and the counselor walked the rows of bunks saying the same thing at everyone. Tell them you are having fun. The homesick camper, and there was always a homesick camper, crying into a stationery pad, was gently and firmly coached to write that camp was great, that he had passed his swim test, that he needed more stamps. The letter was, in some honest sense, censored, and the censorship was considered kindness. The parents could do nothing with the truth except suffer, and the homesickness would be gone before the letter arrived anyway. It always was. And here is where I want to hear from you. In the comments, tell me 2 things: the name of the camp you went to and the year, and the one thing that happened there that your parents never found out about. Not then, not ever. Both. I am reading every single one, and the people in this comment section have been holding these stories for 50 years, so read theirs too. Number 16. Overnight trips run entirely by teenagers. The 3-day canoe trip left camp on Tuesday morning. 10 campers, 2 counselors aged 17 and 19, 4 canoes, a map, and food in steel coolers. There was no radio. There was no satellite beacon. There was no adult by any modern definition. The trip leader, navigated by the map, treated a wasp-stung camper with mud and authority, portaged the group around rapids he judged unrunnable, and brought everyone back Thursday at 5, sunburned and transformed. The camp's entire contingency plan was the word Thursday. Today, a wilderness trip for minors requires certified guides, emergency communication devices, filed itineraries, and ratios that would have required the 1976 camp to hire 6 more adults it could not afford. The trips got safer. They also stopped being the thing that built the trip leader. Number 17. Children built and lit the fires. Fire at the 1976 camp was not a hazard to be managed. It was a curriculum. 8-year-olds gathered tinder, 10-year-olds built the log cabin stack, 12-year-olds struck the matches, and the evening campfire, a structure the size of a refrigerator, burning 10 feet high, had been built that afternoon by boys under the loose direction of a 15-year-old who held the rank of fire marshal because he had earned it. Children burned their initials into paddles with heated wire. Children melted lead sinkers over coals to recast them. The relationship between American children and open flame was daily, practical, and competent. Today, most camps restrict fire handling to adult staff. The marshmallow is roasted at arm's length under supervision, and the 12-year-old who can build a one-match fire in light rain has become approximately as rare as the lake without a liability waiver. Number 18. The camp truck to town. Open bed, full of campers. On supply runs, mail runs, and the legendary mid-session ice cream run, the camp's flatbed truck rolled out the gate with 12 campers sitting in the open bed on hay bales, hair flattened by the wind, waving at every car on the county road. A counselor standing among them holding the cab rail like a tank commander. The town was 11 miles away. The speed was 50. The restraint system was sitting down when the driver yelled, "Sit down." Today, transporting minors in an open truck bed is explicitly illegal in the majority of states. The camp that did it would lose its license before the ice cream melted. And the specific joy of that ride, which every camper of that era ranks among the purest of his childhood, has no legal form left. Number 19. Communal showers, lice checks, and the total death of privacy. The bathhouse was one room, one row of shower heads, no partitions, cold water on a timer, and the entire cabin showering at once on a schedule. Lice checks were conducted publicly, in a line, by the nurse with a steel comb, and the boy who had them was treated, shaved if necessary, and absorbed back into the cabin without ceremony. Foot fungus was communal property. Modesty was surrendered on day 2 and recovered in September, and no one was damaged by its absence, because the absence was universal and therefore invisible. Today, privacy infrastructure, individual stalls, changing protocols, body privacy policies, is among the first things parents inspect, and the casual physical communalism of the 1976 camp reads, to the modern eye, as something between negligence and scandal. Number 20. Kitchen duty on industrial machines. Every cabin rotated through KP, kitchen patrol, and KP meant 12-year-olds operating the industrial dishwasher, a machine the size of a car that exhaled steam at 180 degrees, while their bunkmates ran the slicer, hauled 40-pound stock pots, and scraped 200 trays into the pig bucket. The camp cook, a woman of unchallengeable authority, ran the crew like a galley captain, and the work was real work with real hazards. And the children came out of the kitchen with scalded forearms and the specific pride of having been useful. Today, child labor regulations and equipment age restrictions keep campers out of the working kitchen entirely, and KP survives, where it survives at all, as wiping tables. Number 21. Full contact games where collision was the point. King of the raft. 30 boys on a floating dock, last one standing, no rules about how. Red Rover. A human chain absorbing a sprinting child at full speed. Dodgeball with volleyballs at close range. British Bulldog, which several camps banned in the 80s only because of the injury rate, which was the entire appeal. The bruise count at the end of a session was a private currency, displayed in the shower line, and the camp nurse's tolerance for collision injuries was roughly that of a rugby trainer. Today, the contact game has been redesigned around its own elimination. Soft balls, no-touch variants, mandatory padding, and the specific education of the collision, which is that you get hit and you are fine, has been removed from the syllabus. Number 22. Discipline by labor, with no call home. The camper who mouthed off, raided the kitchen, or went over the line in a raid was not written up. He was sentenced to latrine duty, to digging out the fire pit, to running the hill before breakfast, to a week of KP, by a 17-year-old, on the spot, with no documentation and no appeal. The punishment was public, physical, finite, and over. No incident report was filed because there were no incident reports. No parent was called because there was no telephone. The boy did his time, was restored to full citizenship, and frequently became the counselor who handed out the same sentence 5 summers later. Today, every disciplinary act at a camp generates documentation, parental notification, and review. And the swift, physical, forgettable justice of 1976 is as extinct as the latrine it maintained. Number 23. The high dive tower over water nobody depth checked. At the deep end of the swimming area stood the tower, a wooden platform 15, sometimes 20 feet above the lake, built by maintenance staff in the 50s, repainted but never re-engineered, from which campers dove headfirst into dark water whose depth was an article of faith. The test for tower privileges was swimming out to the rope and back. The supervision was the same 17-year-old with the same whistle. Generations of children stood at the edge for long minutes, found whatever it is you find up there, and jumped and ranked it forever after among the formative acts of their lives. Today, the tower has been dismantled at virtually every camp in America on the unanimous advice of insurers, and the dark water goes undived. Number 24. Ticks and leeches removed by teenagers with matches. The camper who came out of the lake with a leech on his calf did not go to the infirmary. He went to his counselor, who removed it with salt or the hot head of a blown-out match, narrating the procedure to a circle of fascinated witnesses. The tick embedded behind an ear was extracted with tweezers and a steady 16-year-old hand, inspected, declared dead, and flicked into the fire. No incident was logged. No parent was informed. The removal was itself a small ceremony of competence, the older boy demonstrating to the younger that the body is a thing you maintain calmly with available tools. Today, both procedures are medical events requiring documentation and disclosure, and the match trick has been formally discredited, which is true and beside the point. Number 25. The dance with the sister camp. Once a session, the boys' camp and the girls' camp across the lake converged in a dining hall with the tables pushed back, a record player, and a chaperone corps composed entirely of 18-year-olds. 14-year-olds slow danced at arm's length to records from 3 summers ago. Pairs walked the waterfront path in the dark, watched loosely from the porch. First hands were held. The entire event ran on a code enforced by teenagers upon teenagers, and the code largely held, and the August romance, conducted afterward entirely by postal mail, became a permanent fixture of the American memory. Today, inter-camp socials operate under written codes of conduct, adult chaperone ratios, and lighting requirements, and the dark waterfront path has a floodlight on it. Number 26. The 2 a.m. raid. The crowning act of a camp summer was leaving the cabin after lights out, through the window, not the door, because the door creaked, and crossing the entire camp in the dark, barefoot with your bunkmates, to shaving cream the door handles of a rival cabin and be back in bed before the counselor, who was 16 and sleeping like the dead, ever stirred. Being out, alone, at night, in violation, was the entire point. The skill it required, silence, navigation, nerve, loyalty under interrogation at breakfast, was a curriculum no one had designed and everyone completed. Today, the cabin has a motion sensor on the porch, the counselor has a radio, and the night belongs to the staff, which is safer and which means no American 11-year-old will ever again own 2 a.m. Number 27. Axes and bow saws in children's hands. Woodcraft was a program area with a rack of real tools, hatchets, full axes, bow saws, draw knives, 11-year-old split kindling, limbed deadfall, and built lean-tos that stood for years, under the instruction of a teenager who taught the safety circle, swing radius, never uphill of the blade, sheath it walking, with the gravity of a drill sergeant because his own instructor had taught him the same circle in the same voice. Hands were cut, stitches happened, rarely, and were worn as decorations. Today, the axe has left the camper's hand at nearly every accredited camp in the country. The lean-to is built by maintenance, and woodcraft, where the word survives, means lanyards. Number 28. The rope swing over the river. Half a mile upstream, out of sight of the waterfront, hung the rope, installed by campers no one could name, in a summer no one could date, from a branch no engineer had ever inspected. The protocol was inherited verbally. Swing past the second knot, let go at the top, tuck. The water below had been depth tested by the bravest boy of some previous decade. Every camper made the pilgrimage. Every camper stood on the bank watching others go first, and every camper eventually went. And the going was a door that closed behind you, because afterward, you were a boy who had done it. Today, the rope is cut down by staff within a week of being discovered, as it must be, and the door it opened has no replacement. Number 29. Homesickness was cured by staying. The crying 8-year-old of the first week, and every cabin had one, was not sent home because there was no mechanism for sending him home, and was not put on the phone with his mother because there was no phone. He was given a job, a buddy, and a counselor's rough kindness, and he cried for 4 nights. And on the 5th night, he did not, and by August, he was the boy organizing the raid. And he came home in possession of the single most valuable piece of information a child can own, that he can be desperately unhappy, far from his mother, and survive it, and then thrive. The modern camp, equipped with phones and flexible pickup policies, returns the homesick child within 72 hours, and the cure, which was always the staying, is never administered. Number 30. And here is the one that explains why none of it can be rebuilt. The summer camp of 1976 was not running on negligence. It was running on a specific, society-wide agreement about what a child is. And the agreement said that a child is sturdy, anti-fragile, a creature that converts scraped knees, cold water, fear, homesickness, responsibility, and risk into strength, the way a muscle converts strain. Under that agreement, the rifle range, the tower, the teenage trip leader, and the 8 silent weeks were not dangers the camp failed to eliminate. They were the product. Parents paid for them. Parents sent their children precisely because the camp would do to them, lovingly, what the parents could not bring themselves to do at home. Then, over about 20 years, 2 things happened at once. The cultural agreement flipped. The child was redefined as fragile, a creature that risk damages rather than builds. And the liability economy arrived to price the new definition. Every activity on this list was assigned a dollar value of potential lawsuit, and one by one, the insurance carriers, not Congress, not the states, the carriers, declined to write the policy. The tower came down. The rifles went away. The teenage trip leader was replaced by a certified adult. The 8 weeks of silence became a daily photo feed. None of it was banned outright. All of it became uninsurable, which in America is the same thing, only quieter. The camp that exists today is safer, and it is run by people who care as much as the people of 1976 cared, but it manufactures a different product. The 1976 camp manufactured the first 8 weeks of an independent life. The verified, embodied knowledge that you can be cold, scared, hurt, homesick, responsible, and far from help, and be fine. The modern camp manufactures supervised fun, which is a real and pleasant thing, and which is not the same thing. And the difference between the 2 products is now walking around in the anxiety statistics of an entire generation that nobody can quite explain.
We did not lose the summer camp of 1976 because it failed. We lost it because we stopped being able to ensure the idea that children are strong.
There are roughly 30 million Americans alive right now who rode that bus, jumped off that tower, held their buddy's hand in the air at the whistle, and went 8 weeks without hearing their mother's voice. You are in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. You know exactly what those 8 weeks gave you because you have spent 50 years standing on it. So tell us, in the comments, the single memory from your camp summers that captures what that place actually was. The one you would tell at the campfire if there were one more campfire. Because the camps are gone, the towers are down, and you are the last people who jumped. Subscribe if you ever held your buddy's hand in the air. Share this with the person who slept in the bunk above you, and I will see you on the next one.